From service to strength, from questions to choice, guidance you trust, HerVetVoice.
Hello, 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 YouTube. Happy Friday, and thank you for joining HerVetVoice. How are you doing? I hope you guys had an amazing day, and we are here to chat and get into the discussion tonight on VA education benefits. But before I get started, don't forget to like and share and subscribe and invite your friends over so they can hear about VA education benefits. And then we're going to have a Q&A. We have Natural, we have FF here as usual. And I'm sure the conversation is going to go in a couple different routes as we continue on this journey tonight. So thank you everyone for joining. Tonight we are going to discuss VA education benefits. We are going to talk about VNRE, GI Bill, the Chapter 33, and the Chapter 35. Veterans Independence tonight, we are going to talk about something that can literally change your life. A lot of people really don't know a lot about the VA education benefits, and there's so much that we can get into tonight. Whether you're trying to go to school, change your career, or support your family, these benefits can literally open the door for you. But a lot of people don't fully understand what they qualify for or how to use them the right way. So we are going to get into the conversation tonight, and you guys can welcome FF and Natural here with us tonight. Of course, they're here to support us and answer your questions. And we know we're going to get into claims later down because somebody always has the claims question, and that's what we're here for. And we're going to get into it. So before I actually get into the education benefits, I want to remind you guys of some things that, I always share with you on Friday nights before we get into our discussion. So I want to remind you guys of the Veteran Critical Assistant Grant by the Purple Heart Foundation. If you are honorably discharged, especially a Purple Heart recipient, you should not have to choose between paying your bills and putting food on the table. And this is what this grant is for. The Purple Heart Foundation can provide up to $2,500 in critical assistance grants for past due utilities, rent, mortgage payments, emergency automotive repairs, or unexpected medical expenses. This is a one-time grant that are fully paid directly to your creditors, okay? So the application is getting ready to open on Monday, April the 6th. Monday, April the 6th. And I'm reminding you guys about this because I know we talked about it a few weeks ago. If you have issues with paying your rent, your utilities, if you have car repairs that need to be done in order for you to get to work, they also pay like your internet bill, your gas bill, your electricity bill, those things in order for you to continue to live comfortably, or you need to put food on your table. This critical grant assistance is here for you as a veteran. So all you will need to do is when the application process opens on Monday the 6th, fill out the application, make sure to send them everything that they need because they're not going to send you the money. They're going to send the payment so your bill can be paid. The next one that I want to talk about also is the DVNF grant, okay? The DVNF grant is the program for veterans who find themselves in a temporary financial setback. So the DVNF will provide up to $1,000. It's not guaranteed, but it's to help veterans pay their mortgage, their rent, and any essential utilities like water and electricity. Applications are open on a monthly basis. And after they make a decision, the checks are mailed to the vendors twice a month. Checks are mailed no later than a week after the decisions are approved. So you would have to fill out the application. There are some application requirements, meaning that you have to fill out the application form. You have to provide your DD-214. You have to have a cover letter containing an overview of the problems or the rationale for the need and what your plan is to continue to support yourself after these bills are paid. You need a copy of the bill that's been past due within 30 days. And you also need a budget sheet that details how your money is spent monthly and how budget issues will be addressed in the future months, okay? I wanted to remind you guys of this before we got into the conversation. This is two grants that you guys are eligible for, the Purple Heart Foundation and the DVNF org. Don't forget to apply. Make sure you check your email, so if they do respond, that you can respond back with the documentation that they need. Okay? And I just wanted to share that with you guys. So let's get into it. Hey, FF. Hey, Natural. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
All right. So before we get into exactly what chapter 35 is, FF and Natural, I want you to talk us through the process of how, when a veteran gets 100%, how do they become eligible for the chapter 35, and how is that process decided? I know I'm always putting you on the spot.
Well, typically, when we make the rating decision, if the conditions aren't likely to improve and you're at the 100%, we'll go ahead and grant, assuming that there's no need for us to follow up, and we can consider that condition, I won't say permanent because Nash doesn't like that, but the condition is less likely to improve, then we'll go ahead and assign Chapter 35 or DEA benefit is how you all may see it written out on the narrative. And that just means, based on the evidence we have, it looks like your condition isn't going to get better.
Okay. So is there like a back date of where chapter 35 began, or is it backdated to when you received 100%, or is it established from the date that they have the letter?
Yes, it'll start with the whenever the 100% begins. The condition is that causes the impairment, or the totality of the conditions, is when the chapter 35 will start. And if you get your narrative and you see that, you had your 100% at a certain date and we didn't grant it, I mean, you could submit, notification or say, hey, I didn't get my chapter 35 and I was at 100%. Again, assuming that those conditions don't need like a relook, or they don't have a routine future evaluation schedule. Like if there's a cancer or some type of condition we've determined that isn't permanent or doesn't show is going to improve.
It's also granted to survivors of a veteran who passed away from a service-connected disability also.
Okay. All right, Natural. So you want to get into the presentation? Let's go.
I thought you got that.
Yeah, I got it. Let's go.
Okay.
So the question is asked, what is chapter 35? Chapter 35 is for dependents, okay? It is for spouse and children, where the veteran has received 100%, and this is it's called the DEA, where spouses and dependents are able to get a monthly stipend while they are enrolled in school. Okay. This is usually based on the veteran's rating, and the veteran usually have to have 100% or they have to have TDIU. If you don't have 100% or TDIU, you don't get chapter 35, correct? It is a survivor independence benefit program. It provides education and training opportunities to eligible dependents of veterans. Eligibility includes spouse and children of veterans who are permanently disabled or deceased due to service-related injuries. So with chapter 35, you get a monthly stipend. Okay, I think currently the monthly stipend is about $1,600. I'm not sure exactly. It's between $1,500 and $1,600. In order to get the chapter 35 stipend, you have to be enrolled in a degree program, a certificate program, an apprenticeship program, or an on-the-job program. You can only get up to 35 months of benefits, okay? This also helps dependents pursue long-time career goals. So I want to talk a little bit about when a dependent, both parents are at 100%. No, you do not get 2 years. The amount of Chapter 35 double. You don't. You can either get 18 months and you're paid at 18 months, or you get the full 36 months. Okay, so you're not going to say, well, my mom is at 100%. I'm going to use Chapter 35 under her social, and then once I'm finished with it, then I get another set of Chapter 35 for my dad because he's at 100%. Correct, Natural? You get one.
You are right.
Correct. Okay. So if you are 100% or TDIU, and this is why we keep telling you guys to read your letters. You have to read your letter. If you don't read your letter, you don't know what you qualify for. I get so many people that have no idea what they qualify for because they don't read their letter. Once they say, you got 100%, it's like everything just go out the wind, and I'm at 100%. I don't care about anything else. And I'm just going to, there are benefits to your 100%. There are benefits to your TDIU. And there's also the student loan forgiveness when it comes to your 100% and your TDIU. And a lot of veterans are not aware, don't read their letters. Okay. I'm not sure how much I can say to read your letter. There are a lot of information that is provided in your letter that you receive. Even if you get TDIU, you get Chapter 35. If you get TDIU, you get Chapter 35. TDIU and 100% P&T gets the same benefits. The only thing is that you are an income restricted you are income restricted in when you get TDIU. But as far as the education benefits, you get the same thing. But you would have to read your letter to know that. And I'm going to reiterate the same thing that FF and Natural say all the time. Even if you got a denial letter, you still need to read it. Okay? You need to read it because there's so many notes that Raiders put in there that you guys just miss. You have to read your letter. It's important you read your letter. Okay? I don't know how else to say it, but read your letter. Just read your letter. Good evening to everyone on TikTok. Thank you for joining. So we're just going to keep it going. If you guys don't have any questions, we're going to keep going. Let's see. My wife and both my kids got their education using this 12-month TDI bill each master's. Oh, wow. That's amazing. And thank you, RT365, for joining us. The only reason I put up with the VA disability process was to get Chapter 35 from my daughter. Otherwise, I would have given up a long time ago. Okay. So that's hey, whatever you got to do to make sure that your family gets the education, I totally understand. But Chapter 35 is also a great benefit. And I too have a college child who is enrolled in college. And when you get Chapter 35, if you go to school in a different state, you automatically get in-state tuition. So you don't qualify for out-of-state tuition, you get in-state tuition. The cost for in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition matters. Okay? So when you are getting in-state tuition compared to out-of-state tuition, you're saving thousands of dollars when you have Chapter 35. And I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying. So if your in-state tuition is $10,000, your out-of-state tuition is $40,000, you're literally saving $30,000 when you use your Chapter 35 benefits.
There are several other benefits other than the Chapter 35. So In some states, like I know Texas has what they call the Hazelwood Act,
Okay.
and that provides up to 150 hours of tuition to public institutions for the children and the spouses of veterans who passed away, who's disabled, or MIA, which is missing in action. Florida offers tuition waivers for the dependents of veterans who died from a service-connected disability or who are 100%. Kansas provides tuition and fee waivers for dependent spouses, military personnel who died or suffered a service-connected disability on or after September 11, 2001. Also, Washington offers a tuition waiver for dependents of 100% disabled veterans or those who died in service. Alabama provides educational benefits, including potential tuition waivers at public 2-year and 4-year colleges for eligible dependents. And Kentucky, Massachusetts, and Connecticut also offer tuition waivers for dependents of veterans with specific service-connected disabilities or deaf. So check with your states on where you live to see if any of those benefits can be applied. Now, I'm not sure if you can combine the two. I don't know if you have to pick one or the other, but it is available to you if you live in any of those states.
I hope you guys got that. Look at your states. Your different states have different requirements for you in order or for your dependent or your spouse to get some extra money, because Chapter 35 does not pay your tuition. Chapter 35 is a stipend. Okay. So when you get your dependent gets the stipend or your spouse gets the stipend, you guys can either pay your tuition with it, or you can use it for room and board, whatever you would like to use it for books or whatever the case may be. But it does not pay your tuition in full. And I want you guys to really understand that, because I get a lot of people who say, well, I'm getting Chapter 35, but Chapter 35 does not pay your tuition. Okay. Chapter 35 is just a monthly stipend that you receive. So you would need to make sure that tuition is taken care of for your child. If you're going to use the stipend to pay your tuition, then you would have to notify the school about that and talk to the veterans office at the school. I want you guys to know that with every college, there is a veteran office. Okay. You can call the representative there. You can talk to them about Chapter 35. Make sure that your child gets certified every semester. And once they're certified, now the VA has it where you can either call in or send a text and certify your school so you can get your payment within 3 days. So before I get out of Chapter 35, there are also other things that you can qualify with the school when you are eligible for Chapter 35. There are some scholarships at your school as a veteran dependent that your child or your spouse may qualify for if you are eligible for Chapter 35. Okay. There are some veteran scholarships that your school, your spouse or your dependent school can get because you are a dependent of a veteran. And you guys need to also ask about that as well. Okay. Closed mouths don't get fed. And if you want your child to go to school without any type of debt, you have to ask about the different resources. I know that if you are a veteran and you served and lived and resided in North Carolina, your child can actually go to school in North Carolina. They give approximately about $8,000 every school year to cover your child's tuition on top of Chapter 35. So you have to do some research. Now, I know that's a word that y'all don't like because y'all don't even want to read the denial letter. So you don't want to do no research. And, I'm just here to tell the truth. But you're going to have to do some research. It is doable for your child to go to school without loans. And I'm saying that because it is doable. Okay. So do some research. Every state has money. There's different schools have extra funds. Call the financial office, ask them, hey, do you guys have extra money? my child is a dependent. Hey, I need some extra money. Hey, ask questions. Call the veteran office. Ask them. Okay. Also, if your child is in high school and taking college credits, you can get up to 5 months of Chapter 35 before your child graduates to go towards your child's education. Okay. This is getting ready to go away because the VA is just a whole lot of hassle with certifying in high school. But previously, if your child did any college credits in school, they can get 5 months worth of Chapter 35. So that's something that you guys also need to look into. All
A
right.
couple of the scholarships that you brought up, HerVet. There's one called Folds of Honor Higher
Yes.
Education, and it provides up to $5,000 for spouses and dependents of service members who were killed or disabled in the line of duty or classified as a POA. I'm sorry, a prisoner of war or missing in action. And the applications typically run between February and March.
Yes, they're getting ready to close at the end of this month. My daughter qualifies for that every year. Yes.
And then there's one called Fisher House Foundation Scholarship for Military Children. It offers 500 annual grants of $2,000 each for unmarried children under the age of 23 of a active duty, reserve guard, deceased, or retired personnel. And the applicant's minimum requirement is a 3.0 GPA. They have one called Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, and it's a scholarship for children of Marines or Navy corpsmen. Awards can reach up to $30,000 to $40,000 over 4 years. They have one called Thanks USA Scholarship, and it's open to dependents and spouses of all U.S. military branches, including retirees and those killed or injured in the line of duty. They have AMVETS National Scholarship, and it provides scholarships up to $4,000 to $12,000 for veterans and their children or grandchildren who demonstrate financial need. And the application deadline ends typically, I want to say, is it April? Like the end of April? I think April, sometime like that.
Yes.
And I think it's another one called Yellow Ribbon.
Yes, the Yellow Ribbon. Yes.
And Fry Scholarship.
Yes, Yellow Ribbon and the Fry Scholarship. Correct. So there's so many different scholarships that you guys qualify for. It requires research. Yes, you have to write an essay. Yes, you cannot use AI, but you would have to provide documentation like your DD-214, your VA benefits letter. Those are the things that you will need to provide. But I promise you, it's going to be worth it in the long run for your dependents. It is free money. Free money. You don't have to do that.
They do have one for women. I think it's something Women's Foundation Legacy Scholarship. I think that's what it's called. And it's specifically for female veterans and their children. So look that up, guys.
So I hope you guys are taking notes tonight, but there are many scholarships that you can apply for. So I see we have, yes, a lot of states provide help for 100%. I live in Kentucky and my daughters go to school in Ohio and they will qualify for either Ohio or Kentucky, but either would give her scholarship and grant. Correct. Big Rock. The state's benefits needs to be reciprocal with neighboring states. I totally understand. 2 of my children went already. Can I go myself now? I'll check with California. Yes. So we're getting ready to talk about how you can go back to school. You can't use Chapter 35, but because Chapter 35 is for survivors and dependents, but we are getting into VRE. Okay, so the Veterans Readiness and Employment Program, formerly known as the Voc Rehab Program. And I don't know if you guys are more seasoned veterans, but they used to call it the Voc Rehab Program. Okay, this helps veterans with service-connected disabilities to prepare for and find and maintain employment. They offer support for independent living if employment is not immediately feasible. So the VNRE and me have not really a good relationship but they've been kind of cool in the clutch. But the VNRE is a great program. Okay. They help with job training, education, employment accommodations. They help with your resume development. They help you with job seeking skills, coaching. If you're building a business, they also have a program where they can help you with building your business. There is a lot the VNRE program. Okay. A lot of people use the VNRE program. It's also known as the Chapter 31 program. Okay. You, as the veteran, would qualify for VNRE. There are a lot of people that use VNRE. Lots of people. Lots of people use VNRE to go back to school. If you are rated and say, for instance, you used to be a correction officer, and because you're rated for your disability and you can no longer stand for a long time, then you will use VNRE to transition into a different career to help you find employment. That's why it's called Voc Rehab. That's why it was called the Vocational Rehab and Employment Program, meaning that they will rehabilitate you into somewhere else so you can be accommodated in the work environment. Okay. There are many, many different things that the VNRE program helps you with. They have a broad program. They do career counseling, goal planning. They pay for your tuition, your books, and they supply assistance. You also get a monthly stipend with VNRE, and your tuition is paid with VNRE. Okay. You get job training, apprenticeships, internships. They help you with everything that you need as far as education and rehabilitation. So, for instance, a veteran who is 100% PNC, who used to do a lot of work standing and walking, and they can't do it anymore due to their injuries, the VNRE would send them back to school to find a job where they are able to sit down and they can still work. That's the whole intent behind the VNRE. Now, veterans with service-connected disability rating at least 10% with a serious employment handicap or 20% or more qualifies for the VNRE, and they must apply and complete the evaluation with the VNRE counselor. Now, let's talk about VNRE because they're not going to call you in 5 minutes. They backlog. They're looking for employees. The VNRE program right now is overloaded. So even if you apply and you don't hear from them, do not get upset. They're going to get to you. Right now, the VNRE program is in need of counselors, and so counselors are overwhelmed with the amount of veterans that they have on their caseload. So it is a bit challenging. I'm asking you to be kind to your counselor until they reach out to you. Okay? Because some of you guys can get a little raunchy because things is not going the way you want it to go. So be kind to your counselor, be patient, be respectful, and make sure that you are turning in all your documents that you need for school in order to get your tuition paid, and you get your monthly paid stipend for VNRE. Okay. Anything I'm missing out on that, Natural, for VNRE?
So you can be like HerVet said, you can be employed while doing it, but you must show that your current job negatively impacts your service connected disabilities, or that your disabilities make it so difficult to maintain that specific type of work you're doing. It can't just be, oh, I'm tired of working and I won't do VR&E and keep a part-time job. You have to be able to, because that's going to be a question they're going to ask you. Why can't you still work at this current job? And you have to specifically say that your disabilities are negatively impacted. Also, if you're in a job with no progression, so say that you're in a job and you reached not like if you're like a director or something like that. We're talking about like at the lowest level, right? And you've reached that where you can't go any farther unless you have some type of extra education, extra specialties, or something like that. You can use the VR&E program to help you reach the next level into maintaining a higher income bracket, I should say. And they also have where you can actually, I know sometimes the VHA, they will take veterans that's in the VR&E program while they're in the VR&E program, and they'll put them in departments, and they can work while they're in the VR&E program and get job skills and earn money too while you are waiting to get through the program.
Correct. Where can you research this, Walter? This is on the VA website, but somebody's asking about the stipend for the VNRE. So let's talk about how much money you make while you are in the VNRE program. So if you are a full-time student and you have no dependents, then you get $818. And this is based off of your location, right? This is based off your location. So if you have one dependent, you get $1,000. If you have two dependents, you get $1,188. And for every added dependent, it's $86.58. If you are if you're only doing half time, then you're only going to get half the pay. Okay. So you guys have to do some research, and your counselor is definitely going to tell you what your payment is going to be and so forth. You can ask those questions with your counselor to make sure that you are on the right track and how to get your VNRE payment. Okay. I just wanted to share that this is on the VA website. It's under the VA rates for education.
And be mindful when you pick your college, because quarter hours and semester hours are different.
Yep. Is this no, it's not the same. You got denied for VNRE? Jason, why? What happened? Yeah, I know they be tripping. Don't bother. I know they be tripping. Okay. So we are going to get back into the presentation here. Let me share my screen because I'm just clicking back and forth. So the program comparison when it comes to Chapter 35 and VNRE. Chapter 35 is for dependents. The benefit type is education, and it's up to 36 months. VNRE is for veterans, it's for employment and training, and it's based on a plan. Okay, that's how you compare Chapter 35 and VNRE. All right. Do you guys have any questions before we move on along?
So I would say some possible reasons you could possibly get denied. Don't know. I would say maybe like lack of a service-connected employment handicap, which means that your disability, if you're service-connected for tinnitus, something like that, I'm just using tinnitus, they may not view it as it can stop you from doing, suitable employment. Another reason is you may already have the skills you need. You may just have to change employers. If you have stable employment, or you fail to submit the type of document, because every month you have to submit your semester hours, your grades. You have to talk to your counselor. If you miss an appointment and you fail to certify, they can take you out of VRE. Yeah, they can kick you out. If you fail classes and stuff like that, if you don't attend the classes, there's a number of reasons they can, but the main thing, like if they deny you, if you currently have a job and they feel that is, a suitable job and there's no discrepancies and it doesn't really, they don't have something that shows that it's impacting your disability, they can deny you.
We have a question here.
Yeah, and really quickly, just like what Natural was saying about the reasons for denial, you again, you need to meet that employment handicap. What is going on with that job and your disabilities that are causing the disconnect? And then some veterans erroneously think it's an education benefit,
Yeah,
and it's not. It's an employment benefit.
correct.
So some may approach it that way, like I want to go to school, but that's not the purpose of the program.
Yeah.
So I mean, you may have, a master's or something already, and they've determined if the handicap isn't met and you already have that level of education, that could be a reason for denial. You need to make it link.
Yes. Paul had a question. What if you have remaining GI Bill entitlement? You may elect to receive a subsequent allowance based on the basic allowance with VRE. So you want to use your VRE?
I think you have to use, and don't quote me.
And use your VRE before you use your GI Bill. And most people recommend to get enrolled in VRE before you use your GI Bill. But some people, because they don't know about VRE, they automatically go enrolled in the GI Bill program. And then there's some people who benefit more from the GI Bill than they benefit from VRE. So the situations are different. It's based on where you're going to school and stuff like that when you choose your school. And then some people don't want to deal with the hassle of having a counselor and dealing with that. They just rather just use their GI Bill, which pays for their tuition. They also get a monthly housing allowance, their BAH, and a book stipend, and they're just content with that. So it's different strokes for different folks. I got a question. How does independent living works? Are you talking about what Natural was talking about before? The independent living? San Diego Marine? I'm not sure. I basically quit my job because my disabilities will not allow me to continue doing that job. So Jason, this is the reason behind VRE, voc rehabilitation, right? Because you're not able to perform the job that you had previously. So then you would get enrolled in VRE, and they will allow you to choose a different program where your disabilities are not affected and you can still work. The main reason that I feel like the VA created these programs is because who wants to sit at home and not do anything, right? So sometimes just because you're not able to do a job that you did before does not mean that there's not an opportunity for you to do something else. Now, I'm not talking about TDIU because y'all been blowing up my email about TDIU and saying that you are bored at home and you are ready to go back to work. So I'm gonna leave it up to FF and Natural to tell y'all that you cannot go to nobody's job and make a whole bunch of money. You got to stay at home and make less than $16,000 a year. FF and Natural, go ahead on the TDUI train.
I'm good with what you said. They just need to make sure the reason that you can't work is due solely to your service-connected disabilities. And kind of like what we were just discussing about your VR&D eligibility, you have to make it link, right? So even if you can't do the job you have done previously, that doesn't preclude you from doing anything else. So are there certain skills we can improve on? Is there something else you can do in place of that? But if your service-connected disabilities render you unemployable, by all means, please apply, because we don't want you going to work and hurting yourself even further. I mean, for all we know, that could be the reason you're in pain now. So we don't want to do that. But if you can do something else and still get regular employment, I would highly recommend it. And then just try to continue getting your service connection through your other conditions that are causing you harm. But if you go over the limit for the TDIU, it's going to trigger a notice at Social Security, and they're going to send it over to us at the VBA. And then once we get the notification, we're going to send you a notification that says, hey, we know you weren't able to work due to your disabilities, but we got word you're feeling a little better. So we're going to adjust your pay. And we don't want that to happen. So if you think you can do something else, try that option first before applying for TDIU. And I'll let Natural tell you in her way.
One thing I wanted to say about her vet said she recommends using the VRE first. The reason why she's saying that is because there was a change with the VA. They have something called the 48-month rule.
Yes.
Where that means using your VRE, it doesn't subtract from your GI bill. If you have any GI bill remaining, it doesn't subtract from that. But if you use your GI bill first, it limits how much entitlement you have in VRE, if that makes sense. So for IU, if you are dead set on going back to work, my only recommendation would be is for you to notify that you are ready to go back to work and you no longer wish to receive TDIU, and do it that way. And you will go back to whatever percentage you were before IU was granted. Because if you don't, and that's even if you're doing stocks, if you're an influencer and all these other different things that people are trying to do, if you earn money, even if you get a 1099, that's going to trigger that you made, if you made over the, what is it, 15,000 or whatever it is, that's going to trigger. And I know sometimes if the stock market hit exactly good for some, you can get a lot of money from that. Yes. If you are a good influencer, you can get a lot of money from that. Just be mindful of the things that you try to do that you don't think that could possibly make you lose benefits. The problem is if you make over that, the money that you receive from the VA, you will have to pay that money back for however many months that you went over the money allowed for you to be on TDIU. So
even if it's $1.
Yeah, you would have to pay that, man. They're going to take it. They're going to send you a letter saying, hey, we were notified by the Social Security Administration for the year of whatever that you made X amount of dollars. Could you please explain to us what that money was from? Based on your answer, if it's satisfactory to them, they may be like, okay. If not, they're going to start the process of proposing to take your IU, and then you're going to receive a letter of indebtedness.
And you all have an option. It'll say if you want them to go ahead and stop the payment for that, you can select that option. It'll give you the time to send in other evidence saying, hey, maybe they got my dates wrong or the income wrong, but you know what's going on. So you respond accordingly. Yes. But if you're working past that, I highly recommend that you choose the option that says stop giving me compensation.
Yep.
Can you share with them how you guys find out
that they're working?
Find out that they're working.
We'll get a notification from the Social Security Administration.
And you can't lie and say nobody stole your identity.
Well, I had one of those.
A little bit, but they're going to check. Okay.
They're going to ask. They can even pull from the IRS to see how much money, if you filed taxes for that year. And keep in mind too, guys, if your benefits include your dependent, they count their income sometimes with that.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple of questions here. I can't do my previous job now after my non-service connected knee went out, then my service connected went out again. Is there a rule when your GI Bill runs out, or is it true that you can't use it after 10 years? There's no rule. You can use your GI Bill. There's no limit to a GI Bill anymore, Jason. You have forever and beyond to use your GI Bill. Hey, lady, how does being in the National Guard and receiving VA benefits, VA disability allowance work? Kimberly, you talking about benefits?
Are you talking about compensation?
Compensation. What are you talking? Which one are you referring to? Okay, before we get Kimberly's response, we're going to talk a little bit about the post 9/11 GI Bill. The post 9/11 GI Bill, this is one of the most popular ones that people know about. This covers tuition. This covers your monthly housing allowance, which is called BAH. This also covers your books, okay? Any active duty who have been in service after 9/11 is eligible for 9/11. But I want you to understand that the length of your service matters when it comes to post 9/11. A lot of people don't think about it. What matters most in the post 9/11 is your length of service. Okay? If your percentage determines how much you get as well. Your VA disability percentage determines how much GI Bill you get. Okay? So if you are using a GI Bill or thinking about it, make sure you do some research. Do some research on the GI Bill. And a lot of people make these common mistakes when it comes to VRE and GI Bill. Using the GI Bill when your VRE is better. So you have to start comparing and doing the research to see which one is better and which one is not. You don't understand if you're eligible or if you're not eligible. I know a lot of people think, well, okay, I got this kind of discharge. I'm not eligible for a GI Bill. And come to find out, years pass by, you're eligible for benefits and you're eligible for education. But because you are listening to what the veteran street says, instead of doing your research, you don't know what you're eligible for. Okay? Then some of you guys do not maximize your housing allowance. You don't maximize your housing allowance, meaning that your zip code where you reside depends on how much money you're going to get. And I know you've seen in the TikTok streets or in the YouTube streets, oh, you guys need to move here because you get this much allowance for your GI Bill. So you need to do research about if you're going to go to school, if you're not going to go to work, is your GI Bill is going to be able to be a substantial amount to cover your housing, your housing stipend, your food, your books. Make sure that you are able to survive off of your GI Bill before you decide that you want to just quit your job and go to school. Guys, you have to do the research. This is not the time to be making rash decisions saying, I'm going to go to school and I ain't got enough money. Okay. You also need to plan long term. You need to plan for long term. If you're using your GI Bill, you plan for long term. What are you going to do in this part of your GI Bill? Are you going to use some for your master's degree? Are you going to use some for your doctorate degree? What are you going to do? Okay. Because if you are a veteran, you do not qualify for Chapter 35. You're not eligible for Chapter 35 because that's a survivor independent benefit. So you have to be able to make a long-term plan about what you are going to do, because if you choose the wrong benefit, it's going to cost you. you're going to lose out on some things. Like I said before, some people can use VRE before GI Bill. Most people use the VRE before the GI Bill because you can use VRE to get your bachelor's, but then you can turn around and use your GI Bill to get your master's and your doctorate. So you have to be strategic. And that's why I talk about making a long-term plan. All right.
There is a time limit for the GI Bill. You have to if it's, I think it's 2013.
After
if you had
2016, I
yeah,
think so.
if you had service that ended before or ended on, I think it's on or about sometime in, I want to say January 2013.
Mhm.
Your benefits never expire. I think it's called that forever GI Bill. But if
Yes.
before then you fall under that
Yes,
10-year rule.
10-year expiration. Yes.
Yeah.
Kimberly is saying, Comp, can you receive both while on drill duties?
Absolutely not.
That's called double dipping.
They will, if you are getting compensation and you have drill, it stops for that weekend.
Yeah.
Or if you get called back up to active duty, your compensation stops, because we'll get something called it tells us that you were called back up for active duty. It'll stop.
It's like double dipping because it's both the federal government paying you, right? So the federal government can't pay you for disability compensation and drill at the same time. It's called double dipping. Okay. So let's see. Well, there's no limit to when the GI Bill can be used. I didn't know that. Yes. And Paul, she just talked about it. If you, after 2013, it's the forever GI Bill. Before 2013, then you have the 10-year limit. Can we still work and use the GI Bill? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can work and use the GI Bill. Lots of people do it. You can work, get your monthly stipend, and get your tuition paid, get your book stipend, and still go to school. Most people go to school online when it comes to, working and going to school. Does the Montgomery GI Bill active duty have a time limit? And I think that's the one that has the time limit. So you just have to be strategic when you are planning going to school. Just be strategic about it. There are different things that you guys qualify for, but you have to do some research. And this is part of the reasons why we started to do more informational lives, so you guys can go out there and see what's out there. We'll nudge you a little bit so you can do a little bit of research. But if you are going into using GI Bill and VRE, I suggest that you weigh your pros and cons before you enrolling in anything. What is Independence Living Services? I was asked if I would like an evaluation for it. The independent, who asked you about it? And where are you located? Were you enrolling in school? Were you enrolling in VRE? What were you doing that they asked you, do you want to qualify for it? I know that the independent living is with VRE. So that's what I know about the independent living. So I want to know if you're talking about it with VRE or is it something else? Oh, you was asked when you were VRE. Okay. So
that's on the VR&E.
Yes, that's on the VRE. Right, they go hand in hand. The VRE and the living.
Yeah, that's for veterans who can't return back to work.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you can't return to work right away, you qualify for the independent living services, and they would provide all the voc rehab counselor, get all that stuff. They will actually work with you also to get a job if you, whatever, a one that you're sitting down, if you are able to, and to help you restore back to like your daily living activities.
Yeah, but for that, your disability has to be severe. Yes. It has to be a severe service-connected disability that kind of put you where you're not. Like if you have, like say you have a back surgery and you're going to be out of work for months or whatever, and then you're doing like PT to kind of try to like get yourself, and then you can use VR&E to try to get some, because if you were a construction worker and you had hurt your back, chances are you're not going to want to go back to doing that. So you can be getting educated in some career advancement training while you're still rehabbing. So I like that program.
Yeah. I had to leave school because of my disabilities. Yeah. So that's where the independent living services come in to play. Right? They help you get back on your feet. They help you establish a career, or show, where you would go, how you would go about doing it, give you rehab, get you in counseling, get you into an education program that can give you a job where, due to your disability, it's not affected and you can still go to work. The whole point behind VRE is to allow the veteran to still feel like they are an asset to the community and getting them out there to continue to go to work. Okay. A lot of people, when it comes to being a veteran and sitting at home, veterans struggle with that. Okay. And this is why I talked earlier about TDIU. Before you decide that you want to apply for TDIU, you have to make up in your mind that you're going to be at home for most of the time. Because nowadays, $15,960, that's not going to take a long time to make that, right? And so you can't go over that. So then after you make that $15,000, unless you work like one day a month or one day a week or whatever the case may be, but if that's the case, you're going to go over it and then you're going to lose your TDIU. I was a barber, but I'm at 100% TDIU and SMCS. So let's talk about TDIU and FF and Natural and VRE. A lot of people ask, can they be TDIU and use VRE?
I mean, if they are awarded and they get, entitlement for the VR&D program, what the purpose
You shouldn't do it.
is.
You shouldn't do it. You should not do it. I'm gonna just say it like that. You should not do it because I'm sorry, FF. No,
You're fine.
listen. If you have TDIU, same thing goes for that. I understand you may want to go back to school and do all of that. That's fine and dandy. But VR&E is not the way to go, because VR&E gets you ready for employment.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you want to come off of TDIU, go VR&E route and go back. If you want to stay TDIU, don't use your GI Bill in this case if you have any of those benefits left to go to school.
Correct.
Because TDIU is saying you can't work. VR&E gets you ready to go back to work.
Mm-hmm. It's contradicting the other. Yeah. So I wanted to ask that question because I get a lot of people say, I'm TDIU. Can I go get VRE? And I'm like, why? Why would you want to go?
I mean, if they say they were doing construction, or if they were doing something and they were standing and they have a back or foot problem, and it's like, okay, so I can't do that, but is there something else you can teach me? Is there another skill that I can use? Because if you're able to do the VR&E, and let's say you're able to sit at the desk, okay, yeah, you can't do that, but the skill VR&E is going to give you, it's going to allow you to possibly work, remotely or something to that effect, to where now you aren't having to stand or use your back, something that'll ease it, but still allow you to have substantial employment.
Yes.
But again, you all know your situation best.
Just
don't do anything that could appear as though you're being, fraudulent.
Well, here comes natural. Let me say this. If you on IU and we granted it, that means we said you could not do sedentary work and or any physical activity because your service-connected disability has rendered you unemployable. So if you go to VRE and they say, well, we're going to train you up to sit at a desk. Well, that means you can do sedentary work. You no longer qualify for IU. So there, do with that with the as you please. I'm just saying, if you want to go back to school and you're just that bored, or you want to go back to work, just come off of IU. It'll save you some problems in the future, and it'll save you a lot of time having to go back and forth with the VBA and losing benefits and losing time, and just don't do it. If you want to stay on IU, just find something else to do. Pick up, go gardening, play bingo, do something. Volunteer somewhere, but don't go get no job.
Yes, you all, please listen to Natural.
That's right.
She's telling you exactly how it is. If you want to continue to get the benefit for the TDIU, then you cannot, in theory, successfully use the VR&E benefit. Be honestly, you can't use it honestly, because it is an employment program, not an education program. And I think a lot of veterans maybe misunderstand it, because that's a benefit of the program, but it is to get you in the door of employment, because you're saying wherever you are, for some reason, it's conflicting with your service-connected disabilities, and you need another way out, because that job isn't it for you. And if you get in the TDIU, you're saying your disabilities didn't allow you to work. So, get a notepad, do your pros and cons, see what your end goal is, maybe start there and then work your way forward. That way you won't necessarily be working backwards, and you'll be less likely to run the risk of having to pay back money to the VBA. But if you can work.
Yeah. And if you, and here's the thing, if you are in TDIU and you feel like life has gotten so much better, I feel like I've gained the strength back and I want to go about do it, you know what you have to do. Submit the documentation to say, I am ready to go back to work. But do know that you will not be paid at 100%. You will go back to your percentage that you had before TDIU. I just want you guys to understand that, right? Somebody asked a question about online school versus in person. Okay. When you are choosing your school or where you want to go to school, and you choose between if you want to go online or in person, BAH is calculated based on online versus in person and full-time versus part-time. Your zip code impacts the amount of money that you're going to get. Okay. Where you go to school affects how much money you're going to get paid. All right. So online, you have a lower BAH. In person, you get full BAH, and then you can do the hybrid options. But the decision that you make can affect your monthly income. And this is why I tell you, you have to make the decision, because if you're going to go to school full time, you have to be able to live in a place where you're going to get the full amount of BAH that's going to take care of your housing costs before you decide that you want to quit your job and go to school full time. Okay. Too often, I get a lot of inboxes on TikTok. Hey, do you have any resources? Because I quit my job and I thought my BAH was going to be this much, and it's not. And then you can't survive off of your BAH. So before you decide that you want to leave work, or whatever decision it is that you want to go to school, make sure that it is going to be affordable, okay, for you, especially in California. A lot of people are like, oh, you guys need to use BAH in California. California is expensive.
Yes. And really quickly, back to the TDIU, I really want you all to calculate. I mean, it's only about $49,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really going to be able to do everything you need to do with that? I, Again, I don't know everyone's financial situation,
Correct.
but if you have the opportunity to work regular job to get those things done and then continue getting your regular monthly VBA payments from your service, I think that would be the better option because it doesn't run a risk, right?
Yep.
Those are conditions that you have and you're being compensated for. There's no limit to the income that you can earn outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
I just really want you all to calculate that. Again, it's only about $50,000, and this is just assuming it's just like you, because
Yeah.
I think it's like 4,000 a month or something.
Mm-hmm.
But just do the math and weigh the risk and rewards. In my head, and certainly in Natural's head, this is a no-brainer. But the decision is always yours.
Yes.
Just
Correct.
make sure you think about it before we just say it's taking too long to get the 100 rate.
Hmm.
So just slow down and think about it, okay?
And I'm glad you brought that up, FF, because I get a lot of people as well saying, well, you know what? Can I just apply for the TDIU because I got denied? And I'm like, pump your brakes. Pump your brakes, because your spouse that you want to apply for TDIU is still working.
Yeah, just gotta
You
be
have to think
patient,
about it.
guys.
Yes, you have to prepare and plan. You can't be working and applying for TDIU. And the two ain't making sense, right? Because it's IU, unemployability, not employability. So you guys have to use strategy with it. Paul had a question. I just found out I can go to the VA hospital. 24 months active duty does not apply. I receive an honorable discharge due to a stress fracture on the left femur and tibular and knee injury. DD form VA code 5255. I'm not understanding what you're asking, Paul. What if they did VRE to get a job that works from home? Not for me, but someone might be in that situation in regards to TDIU. You can work.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what we just discussed. If it's because sometimes you can't reach a max, you can reach a ceiling, and you need to do something else. That's okay.
Yeah,
But
you can
it's
work from home.
some people trying to kind of play the system both ways, and unfortunately, it's gonna get caught. Because you can't say on one hand, I'm not able to work due to the harm that's been caused, but on the other side, can I enroll in this program that helps me to look for work? So
Working from home is considered sedentary work, just FYI.
And working from home, you still get paid and you can't go over.
Yeah.
Yep. You can have 100% P&T and not have TDIU. Yes.
correct. And work all you like.
All
That is
you
a
want.
beautiful way to go.
All you want. But before we move forward, we had 3 people that got their 100% today. And we want to say congratulations to them. They have been rocking with us for a long time. And I just want to say congratulations. If you receive your 100% this week, way to go. Congratulations. Now stay out of the queue. Okay? Stay out of the queue. Do not go back looking for back pay, because future pay is more important than back pay. Now, I'm not saying that if you know that you are warranted back pay and you feel like the VA owes it to you and you have everything, all your ducks in a row, and you're going to win that fight, sure. But if you go back over there trying to question an ITF and knowing good and well that you're not warranted no back pay, and you go back to get them to open up your file, don't send me no email.
Yeah. Yeah, just be mindful and make sure that what you're claiming is valid. You have your evidence ready. I gave you all this date, we gave you the wrong date, or we missed some information. Just make sure it's sufficient before you send it back, because it's going to open it back up, and then someone may find something that's not favorable, or maybe there was a condition that was, incorrectly serviced. So, just be mindful.
Yeah. Don't go back in the queue unless, okay? So, and I'm going to say this too. Because I know a lot of people be like, oh, I want my family to be able to get money once I pass away, and I want them to get DIC. So I'm going to file for everything that, I'm going to get, because I want my family to get money, right? But if you got tendonitis in your elbow, you ain't finna die. You're not finna die from that. Okay. Now, if you got a heart condition or some other things going on, diabetes and some high blood pressure and stuff like that, but stuff that ain't, no. Sit down, please. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because you guys are not saying a lot right now, but when I open up my email, can you please help me? That's the first things I see. I'm going to start screenshotting some little things so I can show you guys how many can you please help me I get a day. Because you decided that you want to go back to open up your file. I recently had a young lady. She had her 100% for 12 days. 12 days. And she went from 100 to 90. So be mindful of what you are getting ready to do. When I tell you stay out the queue, stay out the queue. There are how many in there? Thousands in there.
Oh, don't talk about it. It's so many.
So many.
Back in there. If you don't have to, if you know that what you're getting ready to file is not something that's going to be effective to you and cause harm to your life, and you think that it's something that you will pass away for so your family can get benefits, sure. But if it's something like your elbow, have several seats.
Intermission. Please subscribe to HerVet's channel. Thank you.
All right. A DD214 can help anyone out. It will give location, time, and date listening. Okay.
Let me say this, guys. I had a horrible week this week.
Yes, Jasmine.
And I had very, very bad week with and one thing for me, as I'm a vet, and I always, when I rate, I put myself in this particular person's, I don't know their money situation, but typically, if you are 100%, I would suspect that your lifestyle sometimes is based off of the amount of income you have coming in. Some states do have where if you have your home, you don't pay taxes. If you're 100%. Yeah. You lose that 100% and say hypothetically your house is $400,000 or $500,000. And you're paying approximately what, maybe $2,000, I don't know, just throwing a number out there. Do the math. Once they take that 100% away, all that tax that comes on to that, you're going to put yourself in a situation, and your family is more stress going to be added to you. And then you're going to have to fight an uphill battle to climb back up to where you were already at, because some people are putting information out that veterans automatically assume that they can get service connected for, and it's just not true. Every ailment that comes to you does not have a tie to military service, although we would like to think that. Sometimes they are derived from a secondary condition. But let's be, a lot of us was in the service a while back. We're getting up in age. We can't afford to keep going back and forth, this yo-yo effect of, oh, I had 100, I lost 100. Taking someone from 100% to 0% is crazy to me. I've seen it happen. I've done it. I don't like it. But just be mindful when you keep coming back, trying to get all these different service connections, chasing these SMCs that a lot of people don't even qualify for. Just be mindful, be happy with what you have, because unfortunately everyone wants 100%, but not everybody's going to get 100%. And every day the laws are changing on how conditions are rated. So there are conditions that used to be considered a bilateral factor, no longer. And then of course now, the changes that's coming with the mental health, the changes coming with hearing loss. And every day I see tinnitus, hearing loss. And the one that I can't stand the most, sleep apnea. Let it go.
GERD, sleep apnea.
And GERD. So, or to mental health. The thing is, guys, if you want to get 100%, by all means, if you have the evidence, you have the condition, keep fighting for it. But don't keep fighting for something you already have.
Yeah. Because
it's not worth
they lose chapter 35 as well. You lose everything.
Lose that. And think about if you got kids going to college already, and then they're on the chapter 35 benefits. And then that child no longer can afford to go to college, because college is very, very expensive. So let's be mindful of the things that we don't just think of you in that situation. Oh, I want to be 100%. I want to keep following this and that. Think of your family and the ones that will be affected if you lose that. Think of your livelihood that you may still be working, but think of all the other benefits you will be losing if you lose that 100%. Because unfortunately, yes, like FL said, if you get a rater and they look at and they find something that wasn't supposed to be granted, or something that was over-evaluated, that can change your percentage dramatically. Yep. So just be mindful, and be mindful who you're listening to out here on these TikToks and YouTube that's saying, oh, you can qualify for this, you can qualify to that. There's a criteria for everything that you must meet. So just be mindful, guys. I want everyone to keep the benefits that they have and be blessed and live a healthy life with your family, and let your family don't need to suffer anymore, because they suffered while we were gone, while you're deployed, while they went through all the times that you had to leave. Why make them suffer now? Because you continuously come back for trying to get benefits that you possibly can't get.
Yeah. And
so I'll step off of my soapbox now.
Go ahead.
No, that's right. I was just gonna say, I had one. I got it Tuesday, and I finally got it fixed today. But what happened was, a veteran was service connected, had 100% since 2023. But what happened is the veteran had 2 scars, and it was our fault. He should have been only rated for the one at the 10%. So when he got the second one, it made him 100%.
Wow.
And I won't say the other word because Natural doesn't like it. But we took the evidence as to mean that his condition wasn't going to get any better. So he came back and he said the scar got worse. So the scar got worse. I think it was December. Exam, everything's fine. Somebody else got it, and I don't even know how I got it. But in either case, they did the proposal. So I'm looking. I'm like, well, what is going on? He's had it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, there it is. You're double rated for the same thing. So had he just kept it how it was, and again, it was our fault. So there was nothing he would, have to pay back.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, the scar is worse. So then the other person got it, did the proposal, because again, it's wrong. So it took him from that 100 to 90. And I'm like, oh gosh, gotta confirm this chapter 35 is being removed. And so you just take it completely away. You don't even leave it because it wasn't warranted.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this was a scar. Like,
Yes, a scar.
That's what I just said. What this person said? Stepping over dollars and chasing pennies.
Yes,
yes,
and
and his daughter was in school, like her
A
enrollment, she had
scar.
been in there since 2024. And again, like I said, he had it since 2023. Great benefit, but you know, it's gone now. Just oh,
Yep.
and one thing I want to say,
Go
I
ahead.
don't know where veterans are. Yes, the M21 is online, and yes, Part 4 is online. But what you don't do is when you go to an examination, you open up those things and flip to whatever condition you are at for that exam, and answer the examiner's questions based on the rating criteria that you're trying to get. When rating criteria, I mean the evaluation, the percentage. Had a case where the veteran went to the exam and opened their phone and was reading from Part 4, and the examiner asked them, like, what are you doing? What are you? And they said, I'm reading from the M21 part. He said, why are you doing that? I can't. He wrote on the exam he could not adequately evaluate the veteran because he was reading from a criteria. And then the examiner said, where did you get this idea from? The veteran's response was, I saw it on TikTok. Someone said to do this on TikTok.
Oh,
And so, you know, there are some people that tell you good things on here, and there's some people that just overinflate it just for, what's the word, clickbait or whatever.
hey, clickbait will cost you your pennies and your dollars.
And so, based on the evidence, the veteran kind of improved, right? But he thought by reading a higher evaluation, not understanding the true what comes along with that evaluation, because there's some things in there. It's like you need this and this and this. It's not you need this and that's it. People read that and interpret it in different ways. But when a rater gets it, we have your current evidence, we have the M21, we have the rating schedule, and we have your service treatment. We have all of that we take into consideration. It ain't just the rating criteria.
Yes.
So be mindful what you're doing in these exams and what you're saying and who's prepping you to go to these exams, because that can cost you your evaluation also. Just be who you are, be honest, go in there and tell them what's going on with you, and just, because the evidence is going to show us not what the rating schedule told you to say, but the evidence is going to show us what you truly need to be evaluated for.
Kimberly has a question. Isn't there a time frame, 10 years, that VA will not downgrade you if there's an error? Just asking.
No. It's protected after 20.
Yeah.
Unless it was granted on fraud.
And we're
Yeah,
going
I think that maybe.
topic on what fraud is, because
Yeah.
I think sometimes you guys really think you have a different definition for what fraud is. Okay.
So let's say this: the service connected disability is protected, not the evaluation. There's a difference. So here's what you guys need to understand. If you ask for an increase, right, your effective date for that percentage changes. Your disability has been service connected since, let's say, 2020. Let's just use that date.
Yeah.
If at 2020, if you got a 10 or 20% or whatever, that goes with that effective date when that disability got service connected. When you come back and ask for an increase, the effective date for that evaluation becomes, it's almost essentially like you're starting over. in a sense.
Changes,
So
yeah.
that evaluation, so hypothetically, if you come back today and we grant something today, that evaluation is from March, whatever, 2026. The evaluation,
It starts
not
over.
not the disability.
Yeah.
The evaluation is where you guys are getting the disconnect when y'all saying 10, 5, 10.
See? Yep, I knew it. They don't know that once if you get an increase, the date starts over. The evaluation starts over. But Jasmine over here talking about, huh?
Yeah.
So
And the one rule that is going to remain true is we will, no matter what the law decides or how many changes, just like, they did a few years ago with the GERD, IBS, all of that stuff. If you've had these service-connected disabilities in place for those years, let's say you had it at 10 years, rated at the, 30%.
Yeah.
Law change or not even, and another one at 20, we won't ever go to the lowest. It'll be what your highest rating was, because that's the fair thing to do. So
right,
maybe that's what they meant. I'm not sure.
we don't penalize
like arbitrarily. Yeah, correct.
We don't penalize because law changes. So if you come back for GERD and you were rated under the old criteria at 30%, we can, because if you come back and a new criteria says you're at 10, we can't, in theory, we can't propose to reduce because now because the criteria for GERD and IBS is different now versus the old criteria. So typically what I do is I'll go back and ask the examiner to give me the symptomology under the old criteria because this veteran falls under the old criteria. And what a lot of examiners do, they will put on there like, oh, they have acid reflux, they have regurgitation, they have this, they have that, they have substernal pain. I can rate it under the old criteria, and typically it'll just be a CNC at that 30%.
yes.
But we try to keep you all at the fairest, like
he said
we just try to keep it fair.
Is more advantage to the vet than the new criteria.
Yes, the old criteria is more advantageous for the vet, and that's why we do it.
Yeah. And if you had that rate, no matter what goes on, like you said, unless it's like fraud, you're going to be protected at that rate. For that service connection. Like, we don't just go in there randomly, oh, let me pull Mr. Johnson's file today and see what I can destroy. It's not what we do.
Yeah. We don't come look for you. Y'all come looking for us. We don't come look for you. We have plenty of work. We don't. Y'all decide to come in. Let me put this claim in. And then here's the other thing. When you guys are filing, I guess it just drives me bananas when I open up a file and FF, I'm sure when you see like a 526 came in on this day, and then 2 weeks later, here's another one. Here's another one. It's like your effective dates are going to be all, if it's granted, it's going to be all over the place because of the way that you filed. So that doesn't entitle you to a earlier effective date.
Yep.
So
I'm glad
if
you that.
Yeah. So if you file a 526, say January 1st, 2026, and then you had an ITF from December, the ITF is only going to cover the disabilities that you indicated in January. If you come back January 3rd and file a new 526, that ITF cannot be applied to that January 3rd for your effective date. Your effective date will be January 3rd, 2026 for whatever conditions that are granted, unless you file a ITF like January 2nd, and then you file a claim on January 3rd, or you do an ITF January 2nd and a new 526. If you do something like that, but you're not going to get an earlier effective date just because you filed like 4 526s at different times.
Yes.
It's for the first completed application that we receive after you submit your ITF.
Correct.
That's what's going to go with that ITF.
And now you're talking about an ITF. There's something that I want to let
intent to file. I'm sorry.
The intent to file, right? So if you file your intent to file in, let's say March, or let's say April 20th of 2025, and you did not get your diagnosis for PTSD until August of 2025, don't go back in the queue talking about you file your ITF back in April.
Well, we still can. It really doesn't go on the diagnosis date. It goes, so some diagnosis dates, it depends on how we're granted. If we're granting it by with a presumptive, some presumptives will allow us, if you had a diagnosis prior to a law change or whatever, we can go back 1 year. Unless you were on active duty that year. We only can go back to red. But if so, say like someone had hypertension and we granted it due to terror, right? And they were diagnosed in 2010. We can go back 1 year from the date that they filed their either their intent to file or their application to give an effective date. That's the only way we can do that. Diagnosis
not terror, then
then we go ahead, Eva.
I think she was probably leading towards the date entitlement of roles. Like if they apply for something and like we don't have a diagnosis and it's not sufficient for signs and symptoms, it's going to be the date entitlement of roles. Even if you did file an ITF or something like that.
Correct, because I think sometimes they don't understand the date and entitlement of roles compared to the ITF, and then they'll be like, well, I had this ITF in place and why I didn't get paid for this, and that's what leads some of them to go back to ask about an ITF because they don't understand the date entitlement of roles.
And that goes for some secondaries too. Sometimes secondaries will have a different effective date than the primary also, unless it's within scope, which meaning like if you got service connected for your back and you get radiculopathy and the radiculopathy was diagnosed at a later date, then we have to do the date entitlement of roles. Or if you this is your first time claiming your back and you have radiculopathy, we can grant them the same effective because it's within scope. It's just very, our job is hard, guys. Y'all make it hard when y'all do all these and then y'all come back like, oh, I need an earlier effective date. Usually no, sometimes yes, but you have to realize the way that you file it is the way that we grant it.
Like sometimes we'll look to see if it's something else. Like if you have diabetes and clearly they say you have an eye concern, that's a part of the diabetic process. So that would be granted with it, not necessarily. Well, it depends if it's completely to make it 100%, but that's another topic. But it wouldn't be because of this. Like it would be a part of the diabetic process, the issue with your eye or whatever that would be. So that would typically have the same date versus something like what she was just talking about with your back. Maybe that diagnosis didn't manifest until later.
Correct. Yes.
So it's not necessarily part of the back process.
Right. And another thing, when you guys are doing secondaries, you have to be mindful of one thing. If a condition that you're claiming secondary manifested before the primary, it cannot be considered a secondary. So like if you're claiming migraines due to tinnitus or migraines due to PTSD or migraines due to your back, and we find that you were diagnosed with migraines, say like 2012, and your tinnitus and your whatever else was diagnosed in 2020, we can't grant it secondary because we know that the migraines was not caused by your primary because it existed prior. So that's sometimes why people get denied also, because sometimes the the secondary existed first.
Mm-hmm. And I tell them that all the time, because sometimes, and you know, before we get into even if the secondary existed first, if you have medical evidence that you know that you had this thing before the military, please don't submit that to your rater. Please. Please.
I
Well,
had one today for, it was supposed to be for aggravation. He had pes planus,
Oh.
and he said that us hurting his back further aggravated his pes planus. And I said, you know what? Let me see, because again, we're human and we miss things, but I wanted to double check. So I looked back at the exam he took in 2011 when he got out. Yeah, he had asymptomatic pes planus, you know, everything's fine. There was no pain, there was no limitation. Okay. And then he applied for something else in 2013. His back, everything's fine. Feet are fine. X-rays are fine. 2015, he goes to a private provider. He tears a tendon, his Achilles. He tears it, and then he, you know, gets physical therapy. He applies in 2018. We deny it. He applies again last year. I got it today. It was a very long narrative, but I told him that I reviewed everything that was in your file. I said I reviewed the medical opinions that we had regarding your aggravation, and I told him the negative one we had, and then the positive one that we had from whenever it was like 2 years ago, but they ended up getting 2 more negatives, so I just did a negative and a positive. You know, he already had the other one. And I said, because I wanted to make sure I covered everything, I said I went and reviewed your 2011 exam, I reviewed your private records, and I reviewed everything you submitted. And unfortunately, I had to add the benefit of the doubt denial verbiage to let him know I looked through everything and the evidence is against you in this claim.
Wow.
Because I see in your private records, it shows you tore it. That's why it's hurting. It's not because of anything that happened in service. You gave us this evidence because you wanted to show like I'm seeing somebody. And that's great. I want you to get the help that you need for your foot. But it has nothing to do with service.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll forgive me this afternoon. He should have gotten his decision. Hopefully he'll forgive me.
Give him the
But
weekend.
please make sure your evidence supports your claim.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add one thing. If you had a parent that was in the service and you were a dependent, those dependent records be in your service treatment records too. So they are part. So we can see things that you were treated for. So like if you played a sport and you got hurt, you had some fractures, you had some broken bones, and we can see all of that. So if we find that, we have to ask for an aggravation, because
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because I don't think that they know that their dependent medical records is also, you know, reviewed once they get in the military and looking to file or whatever the case may be. Look, somebody said didn't know that. There's a lot of stuff that you guys really don't know. And this is why I created this space, because we're going to have the uncomfortable conversations, because I know everybody in the YouTube streets wants to tell you like all the things that's happening, all these bells and whistles, but we're going to talk about the things that nobody talks about. We're going to talk about the misconceptions when it comes to an ITF. I want to do a live on that because a lot of people don't understand the effective date when it comes to an intent to file. Everybody just feels like, hey, I'm going to put my intent to file and I'm going to get back pay in a whole year. And then when I don't get back pay, I'm upset.
Well, sometimes people wait too long. So if you file an intent to file, is only good for a year. So if you filed your intent to file March 17th of 2025 and you don't come, if you come back March 20th, that intent to file is expired. We're not going to use that. Your date of claim is going to be March 2026, your effective date. So be mindful of that. And then we look at your enlistment exam. We also like FF was saying, if you enter service with past planners and it say asymptomatic mild, we can typically ask for an aggravation. Even though it was asymptomatic, they said it was mild. We know that past planners, we have to ask the examiner because at the time you enter service, we say that you are a sound mind and you're 100% whole. That's what it says. And if you have something on, like people mark, they had hay fever, sinus problem, they had breathing issues, they had heart problem. You'll be surprised when people check on the entrance exam and then they come back and say, well, I had this, I had that. That's automatically going to be an aggravation exam because you indicated when you entered service
you had this.
That happened. And let me say this too. Also, I had a case where the veteran had mental health issues prior to service. He didn't divulge it on the entrance exam. He divulged it when he was having some issues in service. In service. So what happened is his command discharged him because they said it was a fraudulent enlistment.
Yes, it was. Yes,
because you knowingly had this, and then now you're in service and you're having all these problems, and then he tried to come for benefits. There's a no-go.
Nope.
You can't go back and erase the past. What happened to you in the past happened, but unfortunately, it can affect what you're trying to claim now. Yeah.
Yep. And so, guys, and this is why we have these conversations, because there's so much stuff that you guys don't know. So much. So if I did an ITF in June 2025, diagnosed for PTSD December of 2025, filed a claim in January of 2026, if granted, what would be my back pay date?
June 2025.
But remember, it is not the back pay date that's the problem. When you decide that you're supposed to get back pay because the VA made a mistake, and you go back and say, hey, the VA made a mistake on my back pay, your file is going to get open. It's going to get open. Just so you know. So just because they made a mistake on your back pay date does not mean that they're not going to go peek and take a look.
And one thing I want to say about PTSD, if you have combat, we can see the stressor. You get it, you'll get, even if you don't have a diagnosis of PTSD, we will order an exam based on fear easing, because you went to combat. If the examiner come back and says you are diagnosed with PTSD and you meet the criteria for DSM-5 and the stressor is conceded, we will hook it up. If the examiner comes and says you have PTSD, but it's not due to fear and it's not due to personal trauma, then we have to do what we call a records research. We have to be able to corroborate whatever you said on that 0781. If you said, I have PTSD because a friend of mine fell out a window. True story. Fell out a window. And you get a diagnosis of PTSD on the exam, and the examiner says, oh yes, this is due to the person falling out the window. The examiner has conceded that you have PTSD and it's due to that particular event. What the VBA now has to do is to be able to corroborate that stressor. If we don't have enough information to corroborate that stressor, we will develop to you and ask you, like, what is the name of the person? When did this happen? Where were you? We have to put you there. It ain't just because you heard it, whatever. We have to put you there. We have to be able to corroborate that actually happened. And it can't be like PFC Smith or whoever. It has to, it all has to line up. sometimes record research comes back and says they can't corroborate it.
Mhm.
So even though you have a positive medical opinion, we still have to deny it because we can't corroborate the stressors that cause the PTSD. So you will have a denial with a favorable finding. So just be mindful. Go ahead, Evan.
No, go ahead.
No, that's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying because a lot of people come back with supplementals, be like, well, I got the DBQ and it says that I should be granted it. You don't know that. I guess when I write it, I'll tell the veteran like we could not corroborate, although VA examination, whatever, provided a positive nexus for your stressor, we are unable to corroborate. And I explained, like, we sent you a development letter asking you for X, Y, and Z. The information provided, we could not, corroborate, what happened, basically.
That's a beautiful narrative, guys. You need to read it. Like, it lists all the details, telling you why. And then on some of them, when you see the examiner and you're giving, your events, and they may concede that it happened, but then may not provide a diagnosis, or either that diagnosis isn't what you thought it was. It could be, I don't know, just anxiety or some other mental
Unspecified
condition.
depressive, major depressive disorder. It can be anything other than PTSD. Now,
Right.
we can still, even if it's not PTSD, we can still try to corroborate the stressor to grant you under the new diagnosis. But if we can't do that, then it's still going to be a denial, unfortunately.
Peaches said she had a female vet that had a cab. She was denied because she talked about post-service stuff.
Well, because sometimes the examiner can relate your disability to something that happened after you left service.
Sure, Peaches. Peaches, we are on YouTube, and if you would like to come over to YouTube, my YouTube is HerVetVoice. Peaches says she's a rater with VA. San Diego Marine said, I was in a car accident and a person died from the veteran. The veteran was charged with the death of the civilian and went to JAG trial and was a witness. How could I get all those records?
So typically when stuff like that should be so when people are these are some of the things that people got to understand. If you were in a car accident, your STR should include some type of documentation that shows you were in a MVA, this is what happened, and this is what you were treated for. We look for that. And if JAG or CID or any of those people did any type, there should be some type of document, some type of investigation that went over into your personnel records. We look for those things. So
news article, there can be a news article about the accident as well. Yeah.
And if we don't have it, they can submit the records from the hospital. But it should be in there, seeing as how it went to JAG. It should be in there. But you can submit your hospital record, the incident report, because clearly this had to take place. So you should have
and if
evidence
it's
of
not,
that,
you will have to probably contact Department of Defense, probably DOD, to probably request those. And depending on how long ago it was, I don't know how long they keep documentation.
Well, the hospital normally about 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years. Yeah. So that's why I said you would probably have to look for a news article dating back to that time when the accident happened, and that will probably, give some insight on the time frame to look for.
And we can get a police report. We can get the hospital report. There's an accident report. There's a claim. There's something that's evident. And if we don't have it, you as the veteran can get that information and submit it to us. But there's a police report. It's a lot of records according to this sentence that I'm seeing, it should be a lot of evidence that you can request aside from us, because it'll take us a little longer than I care to admit. But you can get the records and give it to us. Just the regular police report, accident report, vehicle report, insurance claim, because they have it. They'll get it
Yeah.
faster. Just
Yeah.
Cullen, what do I need for you to do to get to an 80 to 100 increase? Cullen, we won't be able to tell you that because we don't know what you're rated for, but you would have to look for some secondaries, because climbing the 80 to 100 mountain requires some secondaries to get you over the hill. Okay. One of the things I wanted to talk about before we go on, you guys, can you believe we've almost been talking for 2 hours? The time goes by so fast when we get into really good conversations. Let's talk about talking about post stuff prior military, especially when you're talking about mental health and your childhood and what you experienced, how that can hinder you from getting your disability rating. Okay. Many times I get a lot of veterans that talk about their childhood and what they went through in their childhood, because examiners ask those questions and then they go down the wrong road, causing them not to be rated for their PTSD due to any deployments or whatever the case may be.
Well, post, typically if something happened post, I can pretty much, okay, let me say this. If you had a mental health, you were receiving counseling and service, and we can ask for direct, and you have a current diagnosis, we can ask for direct if you receive any time. If you even mention like on a redeployment thing, or you mention on a questionnaire like you were having irritability, sleep disturbances and things of that nature, we can use that for a direct medical opinion and exam. Now where post comes into play is if you got hurt, like say I had one person, they claimed that they had a back injury while in service when they were playing football. The football thing in service was a twisted ankle. He was treated for. He submitted private treatment records that show he was on a scaffold or something, I think is what it's called, and he slipped and fell and hurt his back, which is a post thing, because the documentation told me that's how he hurt his back. It wasn't related to service. Although he said football, yes, I had the incident of football, but he was only treated for his ankle. So the post condition cannot be service connected to something that happened in service. Now, there are post things that happen that can be related to primary conditions. That's where the secondary stuff come in. That is true. But even with like say hearing loss and tinnitus, when people claim it and they claim it due to military noise, I've seen the examiner say, well, review of audiograms in service. The veteran left he entered service with normal hearing. He left service with no normal hearing. Mm-hmm. The veteran is a truck driver. Noise, his hearing loss and tinnitus is related to post-service.
You came with bad hearing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So not saying that all post-service injuries are not related to service, just saying some of them can be linked to post.
We got a couple questions here on TikTok. What does it mean participation in a toxic exposure risk activity is conceded to your military? He didn't finish it.
That's why y'all need to come on
to your MOS. You guys need to come over to YouTube, because I can't see you. It breaks up on YouTube. You can type the full thing and then I can understand what you're trying to type. But
so basically when we do terrors, if you don't have 11, I was about to say 11. So if you don't have like Gulf War, Uzbekistan. What's the other one? I call it K2, but what is it? FF, is it Kashastan or something like that?
Don't make me butcher that word.
I know. I call it.
Pakistan.
If you don't have that,
Somewhere over there.
Somewhere over yonder.
you didn't have like AO exposure. The next terror we'll look at is your military occupational specialty. And I know every branch don't call it that, but that's what I call it. So we'll look at that, and we'll look at what type of exposures that you were you were exposed to based on your duties performed while on active duty, right? So, and with the Navy, we automatically concede asbestos exposure. Navy, each Navy person has to have firefighter training. So we concede PFAS, and we concede AFFF. Now I can't say those words, so I'm going to use the acronyms. Y'all Google them and find them. So we can see that for them. And so what we're saying is, if we can't service connected on a direct or a secondary or a presumptive, we look at the terror. People confuse Gulf War and terror
all the time.
All the time. Now we do use burn pits as a toxic exposure, but Southwest Asia and terror are kind of two different things. I do see sometimes when the examiners, they do write, oh, it's not due to the service in Southwest. I do see the examiner write that. So if we can concede that you were exposed to like JP8, JP4, diesel, jet fuel, solvents, I don't know, just any type of some oils and all kind of stuff like that, we can send certain conditions for a terror medical opinion. Sometimes they come back positive, sometimes they come back negative. Just depends.
Really quickly, I want to touch back on the previous one. We were talking about the mental health and the pre and the post. So if you have, you're having your exam or just your regular life, and if you decide to do a CMP exam for compensation purposes for the VBA, they're going to ask you, of course, about your childhood.
Yes.
Can you discuss it? Yes, because they're trying to establish a baseline. So can we aggravate or make conditions worse? Yes. However, what tends to happen is it's just a little oversharing, and oversharing is good, just not in the compensation and pension exam, because that's just for rating purposes. So you can share with your regular therapist or psychiatrist, but when you're doing your exam, you kind of just want to stick to task, so your childhood was normal. I'm not telling you to lie. You just stay focused on why you're there. Your childhood was fine. You didn't have any issues. Your life could be aggravated now due to something that took place in service. That's reasonable. But when you get there, just remember it's for rating purposes, okay? Talk to your regular therapist or psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever you're seeing when you leave your exam. That is not the place to do that, because if they can find that something else caused it, then that's going to leave room for doubt. And we don't want to have that, because we're trying to get you connected, okay?
Yes, that's gonna prompt a rater to do an aggravation exam. Some of y'all, unfortunately, get in there and y'all talk too much. Y'all talk yourself right out of possibly getting service connected because you have now created another avenue for someone to look at other than service.
Yep. Yep. Less is more sometimes. Yep. Less is more. So you have to remember public DBQs are available on the VA website. You can at least read them, study them before your exam. Correct. I say that all the time. To be prepared for what you are getting ready to walk into, it is best for you to go pull up the DBQ so you can get a feel of what they're going to ask. Sometimes examiners get information from your records that they may not ask you that particular question, but they might have a follow-up question in order to get the right answer or to get the answer they need. They might not ask you all the questions that you read about, because sometimes when you're answering one question, you've answered something else as well, right? So if you know what they're getting ready to ask, preparation is everything. I usually keep a handy dandy index card close by, but sometimes you can jot down your things that you're experiencing if you can't remember. It's okay to have a little bit of notes in your CMP exam if you can't remember. But if you are going to write a whole book and try to steer the examiner the route you want them to go, then that's not up for discussion, right? So you can take notes, you can write down little symptoms or conditions that you've been experiencing so you can remember yourself, but going in there with a whole book to read off everything from the DBQ, it's not going to be it.
And let me say this, the public DBQs and the Part 4 is not for you to go in there and try to make yourself worse than what you are, right? Because what you have to understand is the rater has access to everything. That includes if you're receiving treatment at the VHAs, that includes your service treatment, if you submitted any private treatment records. Now, with mental health, we do understand that mental health wax and wane. What that means is some days you have good days, some days you have bad. Some days you may have more symptomology than you do on other days. I get it, I understand. But if you go or if you submit a private DBQ and it's just so far-fetched, you're going to probably end up going to an exam, one. And two, even most examiners, they will keep you around a 70%. When I see people getting the hundreds is when they have had some hospitalizations for suicide. Can I say that on here? For SIs. They got diagnoses like schizophrenia, dementia, different things. That's when I start to see veterans getting that 100%. You also have to understand with the 100%, if your competency comes into question, then we have to pose competency, which means then someone, if the examiner says this person, so when you guys are using all these different symptomologies to try to get this 100% saying, oh, I got memory problems, I don't remember the date, time, I don't remember my parents' name, I don't remember this, that calls into question, are you able to take care of your finances? So hear me out. If you have all this and you can't remember the date, you're disoriented, your memory loss is bad and all this, you can't think rational, you have problem with complex command, how can you have control over your finances?
Correct. Let them
so
know.
You got to be mindful when you are saying all these symptoms, and then we go look at the VHA. Now, some people don't go to the VA all the time, and we look at, and if you do, and we look at your last mental health appointment, and it said, oh, my medication is working, I'm happy, I'm not having no problems, everything is wonderful, peachy, but I have, a few days where I'm depressed. it don't jive with the 100%, guys. If
Don't
it don't jive. So yes, you can do your research and look over what you can expect, but the evidence is viewed and it's a totality. It ain't just that exam.
Yeah.
That's what I want y'all to understand.
Kimberly says, should you ask the examiner if they reviewed all your medical records and statements prior to your appointment?
So typically what we've heard from examiners that HerVets had on here, they some of them get it the night before. Like they've left the office and they don't see the file until the morning.
Night before. Yes.
Are they seen it the night before? Now there is a section on the DBQ that asks the examiner what they have reviewed. They will tell us what they reviewed. Typically, the VSR is supposed to, and I'm doing air quotes, y'all can't see it. It's supposed to tab all the evidence and submit it with the exam request sent to the examiner. And the examiner is supposed to review that evidence along with interviewing you. Based on what they see is what they notate on the DBQ when they send it back to us.
Yes. Yep. So your examiner gets the documentation, and I'm sure they do a good job at trying to review as much as they can. Now, not all examiners are good, okay?
No.
I'm not saying that they all are, but they are presented with the medical evidence. It's up to them. I mean, and sometimes they get it late, right? But if you feel like there's something pertinent that you need to let your examiner know in your CMP exam, that's your time to shine. Okay?
And if you have medical evidence, HerVets, that you didn't submit at the time and you got it later, you can take that with you to the examination also, so that the examiner can review it. And sometimes the examiner will review it and then say a veteran brought in treatment records from such and such, and they will notate, that information on the DBQ.
Dawn says, if you use a private provider for your DBQ, make sure they say they review your SDRs and their opinion with rationale. Because, baby,
not all private, not all private examiners that complete DBQs have access to STRs unless the veteran brings them in. Sometimes the private DBQs will indicate that veteran brought the STRs and they reviewed their VH healthcare treatment records. But some of the private DBQs be so out there that it's just not where we can. And then sometimes the NPI numbers don't match. Some people have submitted DBQs with examiners that have retired. They no longer, it's just a couple different things that will discredit that DBQ that will send you to a VA exam.
Okay, we're going to start wrapping up. Who judges your character of discharge review for honorable purposes?
Who judges it? Well, typically, whatever branch of service you got out of
branch of service
gives you that. Yes.
Yeah, character of discharge.
What do you mean, like the DOD that we were talking about the other day? Oh, well,
the COD.
I don't think I was here, but
yeah,
is that what they mean? Like they need an upgrade, or is they're just saying in general, like
not for an upgrade? I guess they're talking about in general.
If a COD is needed, the VSRs complete that. But
okay, not for an upgrade, so just in general. Okay,
yeah. If they do it, the CODs are done by the VSRs.
Yeah,
but I also would like to say on exams, sometime when we get them back, if they missed evidence, the rater is supposed to send it back for clarification, or or an addendum to ask the question that the examiner if he didn't answer, or if he provided a medical rationale and he didn't submit medical literature to back up his rationale, we have to send those back too.
And let me just say this before we close this up. If you're on medication, you can say that you're on medication, okay? They can see that the medication is in your chart as well. So if you're on medication, just say, hey, I'm hurting. I take my medication at this time, and you follow your medication regime. It's okay. They know that you take the medication. I have an OT8 and have responded to the VA why I received it, and I have it, and it will be considered honorable for VA purposes. Okay.
OTH is fine.
That's that's okay.
Now I have seen where people have OTH, but they have that code of misconduct, serious offense, where they will review that and do a COD
That was
sometimes.
different then.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying.
What if they ask, how is the medication helpful? Yeah, tell the truth.
Yeah, just tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
If you have a willful misconduct or something that shows a behavior pattern that is less than the standard for a soldier in any branch, that would probably render something other than honorable on the DD 214. But for VA purposes, if you haven't received something that says dishonorable, then likely you're still entitled to some sort of VA benefit, maybe a limitation on some VBA benefits, but you'll get a letter with that also if it says Chapter 17 eligible, so where you can, still have all your conditions. You'll be able to see the doctor for them, and the VA will take care of that. You just won't be able to get compensation for it, but you'll get a letter for those conditions. But if it's a general, or you went in and then you, for some reason, it just didn't work out, that's typically like uncharacterized, like an entry-level separation. So typically that's fine. What else is it? Natural.
She said Article 15 after Article 15, that is willful misconduct.
But now that they have the where now they're relooking at a lot of
discharge upgrades
because some people were discharged unfairly. They are now looking at those. So if you feel like you fall in one of those categories, because sometimes people have high mental health, and they don't, they don't know, they didn't talk about it or whatever the case may be. There's but if you were just going and you were stealing and you were just missing,
writing bad checks over and over again for some reason, I don't know what that's about, but at 2 bad checks, I mean,
just stealing out the PX and stealing out the commissary and just doing reckless driving, getting DUI, just
reckless driving, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you refuse to wear the uniform, that's dishonorable. So you might as well not even bother.
All right, guys. I think I'm going to do a live about what you qualify for with the different types of discharge. We're going to do that and talk about what type of benefits you qualify for the different types of discharges. And we'll touch a little bit more on the discharge upgrade process to give you guys a refresher, to let you know, because I know some people do qualify for benefits, but they don't go about it. I've had a gentleman I met, he got out 40 years ago, and he got up with I think an OTH, and he said somebody at the VA told him that he couldn't get benefits. Well, he happened to go earlier this week and he couldn't get benefits. So for 40 years, this man has not been getting any benefits at the VA at all. So I'm going to go.
And I think it's on the VA website. Is that where it is with the other type
at 329
of benefits?
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to do a live on what you're entitled to with certain discharges, so you guys can have a bit of information about that, and we'll do a presentation so you can screenshot it and remember to share it with your friends.
If you were heterosexual and you got dismissed, you can go ahead and apply. If you had HIV/AIDS, you can go ahead and reapply. And it's something else. I can't remember
it's a PTSD,
unknown mental health.
Yeah. And MST. There are a couple things that I've done a couple of upgrades. I've had a lot of successful upgrades when it came to TBI, PTSD, and MST, and when it comes to LGBTQ and stuff like that. I've done quite a few upgrades, and they have been successful. So,
you know what? I want to say something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, guys, I don't take MST lightly. It's when service members had to deal with that in service, that is very traumatic to some. And I know some people don't like to talk about it, but the amount of MST claims that's coming in and some of the store guys, I know that some people said that, all you gotta do is claim MST and they don't ask. The VA is kind of getting a little strict on granting MST when it comes to having those markers. And I know that there's sometimes you don't report it. I get it. But the amount of people that are saying it now is really a lot. So I'm not saying it didn't happen to everyone. I'm just saying, if it did happen to you, just tell the truth on it. But the problem is when people are claiming it and it didn't happen to, it kind of makes people, it makes others that it happened to, it makes it harder for them to actually get service connected for it, because we have so many people, even people claiming other people's story that didn't even happen to them. They claimed it due to some, So just be mindful of the things that you're claiming when it comes to mental health. And I know everybody wants to be service connected. I get it, but just stick to your life.
Yeah. Integrity first. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the VA can tell, the stressors show, right? They show. You can tell. And I'm going to tell you this. And I seen an AI program the other day that's writing buddy letters for people because they need buddy letters. Let me just tell you this. They verify if the person that's writing a buddy letter for you was in service with you. They're just not going to wake up one day and said, hey, Lucy was Tasha's buddy in the service, and I'm going to take Lucy's word for it. Okay. They vet the information. Okay. So paying an AI system to give you 10 buddy letters, first of all, it's going to be the same header as another person that submitted a buddy letter, because they get the same letterheads from all the claim charts. They use the same thing, and they're going to get the same thing for buddy letters. So save yourself $110 from going to spend with an AI company to get buddy letters that are disingenuous. Period. I'm just going to say it. And I've seen the AI program where you can get a buddy letter. They're going to check the DD-214. They're going to check the unit information. They're going to check to see if that person was standing beside you in Iraq or wherever you were, or they were your buddy in your unit or in your battalion or whatever. And if it doesn't check out, then that buddy letter is just null and void, and you've wasted your money. So instead of claim chart to get a buddy letter, Just tell the truth.
And sorry about that, Hervets. Let me say this, guys. Sometimes when things happen to us in service, when it's the truth, it's going to stay the truth.
Mhm.
If it happened to you and you were involved in it, and you can vividly remember those when something is traumatic, people remember, right?
Yeah.
So if you talk to your therapist, if you talk to someone in service, and you get out of service and you talk to someone, those stories should kind of parallel. There may be little things that you leave out, but it's not going to drastically change. It's going to be kind of parallel. And don't worry if you don't remember the exact date. You can give us like years, months. And if you remember the person's name, the person that it happened to, you can also we can look up the person's, like, I have a case where the veteran gave the other person's name and what happened to him. All I did, records research came back, they couldn't corroborate the story, nothing. I just went and found the other veteran, and the veteran that this veteran is claiming, I could put them both in the same unit. I could put them there at the same time, and both of their stories was the exact same. So I was able to grant the veteran based on all I did was notate where I got the information from. So don't worry about all the ways remembering every single thing. What you need to worry about is your story staying consistent.
Yeah. Rated H said, if that veteran doesn't have an open claim, how on earth and under heaven do you look up the buddy in the system? Hey, Rated HQ, and hey, Rated HQ community. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, guys, we have been here for about 2.5 hours. Rated HQ, do you have a live tomorrow night? A Q&A? I think he has a Q&A tomorrow night at 8 p.m. He does it every Saturday night at 8 p.m. You have to get there early because he gets tons of questions. So you have to get in there early so you can ask your questions early. He should have said active duty members. Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you have to get over there to the Rated HQ community early in order to get your questions answered because he gets tons of questions and it is very taxing to answer these questions. I'm starting to realize it. Anyway, do you guys have anything else that you wanted to share before the night is over? I guess we'll be back on Sunday night, and I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. Hey, Mr. C, guys, Mr. C is here, and he got his 100% today. So give him some congratulations. I did my consultation.
Congrats.
With him the other night, and he had a fully developed claim, but he was so nervous to file it. And we sat down, walked him through the process, and in a matter of 3 weeks, he got his last little bit that he needed. Up until a couple months ago, when I had access to VBMS, you couldn't pull someone up who doesn't have an open claim. Okay, so what say you guys? Can you pull somebody up who doesn't have an open claim?
I mean, you could, but you're not supposed to.
Yeah, you're not supposed to, but you're not supposed to go into anyone's claim that's technically not assigned to you per se. But
I mean, you could.
we're not supposed to. It's a lot of people that's not supposed to do a lot of things that they do, but they do it.
He said the system would not let me do it. Oh, wow.
Well, there's always.
Oh, Dawn said you must have a business need.
You're supposed to, but
Supposed to.
I mean, we don't have to get into that, but
Yeah.
All right, guys. So as a Raider, is your live tomorrow 8 p.m.? I think it's tomorrow 8 p.m. Let me see on my other on my phone. I think it's tomorrow 8 p.m. If you guys got questions, you can tune into his live tomorrow. Do y'all call the battle? Or do you call each other battle? Yes, he says yes. Tomorrow 8 p.m. Raider HQ is live. You have to get there early if you want your questions answered. My business deed was my vet was claiming PTSD due to a death in his eye. Okay, in his unit. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight. When is the next live? We will be here on Sunday night. I'm thinking tomorrow that I want to go over the committee hearing, but I'm not sure what my schedule is tomorrow evening. So if I do have time, I will pop in and do a live, but I want you guys to go over and support Raider HQ in his live tomorrow. And I didn't want it to clash, but if I have time early in the evening, I'll definitely go live so we can watch the committee hearing. They had 2 that happened this week. And I wanted to go over some things with you guys about the MST and the backdating. A lot of people had a whole bunch of questions. Are they going to backdate my MST? And what, all these type of things. So I wanted to go over that so we can chat with that. But I'm here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Wednesday nights, we have Women Wednesday. And if you are a lady and you're in the chat, we went over the 6 conditions that women don't file or don't claim. And we gave some insight on FSAD, hysterectomies, breast cancer, the residuals, the hysterectomy and breast cancer, incontinence. We did a live about that on Wednesday. So we do have Women Wednesday on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. We are here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. until whenever. So we just have a good time. Thank you guys for definitely joining. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribe. Do know that I am new to the YouTube community and I'll be back here sweating and struggling. Okay. So forgive me if I did not do everything the way it was supposed to go, or I didn't say it the way it's supposed to go. I am just learning this whole thing, and it is definitely a learning process. Okay. TikTok, I am going to start going live on Tuesday for you only, because I do love my TikTok community, and I'm going to try to go live on Tuesday night just for TikTok alone, so we can still answer your questions and still give you what you need over there. So I'm going to split myself in between YouTube and TikTok and try my best to support as much as I can. But thank you for joining. Thank you for the Raider HQ community for coming over, liking, sharing, subscribing. It's always a pleasure to have Natural and FF here, and Dawn, you as well. Thank you for everyone who has been here with us tonight and will continue to grow with us. We will definitely see you tomorrow. I'll put a thumbnail if I'm coming tomorrow. If not, I'll see you guys on Sunday at 8 p.m. Thank you very much and have a great weekend. Be safe, be kind to each other. Share the information you receive here with another veteran, and we'll definitely see you around soon. Take care. Thank you, Natural. Thank you, FF. And thank you, Rachel.
Good night.
Thank you,
You're
Dawn.
welcome. Good night, everyone.
You're not alone, you got a voice. Stand strong, stay informed. HerVetVoice.